Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and Pokemon TCG's expanded format is a really interesting format. You have some crazy combos and really fun decks. It's a bit of a different experience from Standard, but it has some really cool aspects to it. I really like talking about it, and I know people really like watching it on this channel as well, which actually really surprised me. Every time I make an expanded video, they tend to do very well, which I really find interesting because, I like different formats, but obviously Standard is the main one by far, and there are other ones. I'd say the second two are Expanded and GLC, and people like to talk about those, but people really like Expanded and don't play it as much, at least my audience, as GLC, but still, I think watch it more. And this is really interesting because, again, there are so many cool things going on to the format, but it does have one major flaw, and that's that it's kind of bad. Yeah, the format is kind of terrible in some ways because there's a lot of bad balance issues in the format, which we're gonna take a look at. And I think the format is gonna get some bans, especially if it gets more seriously thought out, more played. I've heard some rumors that will be added to live at some point. I guess that shouldn't be some like crazy thing, because like it's one of the main formats in the game, and it's been like a really long time. Like it's, anyways, this isn't a live video, but regardless, hopefully, it's coming into live soon or not soon. I just add it to live, please, or add friend matches. Anyways, this format is it's a format that doesn't rotate. And it's black and white on, and so that means you have some kind of crazy cards in the format and cards that aren't necessarily meant to work together. So we're going to talk about some cards that I think could get banned. I have 5 cards plus one honorable mention here. I think all 5 could. I would not, be sad if they got banned. Maybe but one of the cards, but most of the cards I would not be sad if they got banned. The reason that they could be banned is because they are like kind of broken and format warping and unpleasant to play against. And I'm going to be going over the metagame some as well. Long story short, this is the metagame that you see on screen right now. It's Regidrago. Regidrago V-Star, we don't really need to dive into what it does. Ultimately, I don't think this card's going to get banned. I'd be not completely surprised. This might even be the second card on this list that I think could get banned, but I think there's a card that's definitely going to get banned in the format very soon. I'd be very surprised if it doesn't actually, because of what it's done to the format. I will quickly mention, though, there are some cards that I've played a ton, notably Versus Seeker. I originally was going to talk about it, but I just really think there's no chance that that card ends up getting banned here. It's a card, it's very strong. It's the kind of overpowered, allowing you to recover support as soon discard. It's kind of cool as well, though, and ultimately kind of makes Expanded what it is, and it's not like unfun to play against. It's really fun to play with, so I assume it's going to stay in the format. It doesn't really check any of the ban boxes except for being like a little overpowered. But again, it's not like absurdly overpowered either, especially compared to the other cards around it. It's like just a strong trainer. I guess also Quick Ball is really strong as a trainer, but that's like no shot that's getting banned. It's like Ultra Ball or like Nest Ball, but like a little bit better. And yeah, that's it. It's a cool card. It's fun to have in the game, and it's just ball search, right? It's just a part of the game. I don't think that's going to get banned. I have not heard like no calls for that to get banned. Very few for Versus Seeker. Regidrago, though, again, is most of the metagame. Look at the Champions League Aichi tournament. You can see that it's mostly Regidrago. And yeah, the metagame is mostly Regidrago. This is like a bit of an exaggeration as to what the metagame actually looks like. I think it's like a lot of Regidrago, but it's not like everyone's playing it. This is just the top level play, like the true top level play. And like it's a lot of Regidrago. Ultimately, the deck is very strong because it just has so many support pieces. It just has a lot of them. It's not really one specific card that makes it so good, I guess. But like obviously, Regidrago is like the most important card in the deck because it's the main attacker. And then there's also some other good cards. We will talk about one of those cards that I think will get banned. I think it might not. If they don't ban anything, then it won't get banned. But I think if they ban any card, I think it's definitely going to be that card. And that card is, let's stop beating around the bush. It is Double Dragon Energy from Roaring Skies here. Double Dragon Energy is 2 energy on a Dragon Pokemon of any type. Of course, Dragon Pokemon have weird attack costs that are multiple types generally. And Regidrago V-Star can't really attack without Double Dragon Energy very well. You could use Teal Messenger Pony X, which was how it was used in Standard, but that's kind of clunky. Attaching one energy, one Double Dragon Energy, then another energy is pretty doable. It actually makes the whole format kind of centered around Special Energy as well. I said that, Regidrago V-Star was played in its 13 of the 16 decks. That's most of the decks. That's like kind of absurd, honestly. However, it's not in these 3 other decks. decks, but Double Dragon Energy is in 2 of these other decks. It's in the Archeops decks, and is like a big focus in it. Not quite as big of a focus as it is in Regidrago, where if you didn't have it, you really couldn't attack. You kind of could, technically, but not really. But yeah, Double Dragon is absurd. This card, I think, will get banned and expanded. Doesn't necessarily deserve to get banned. I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it probably does. I don't know if I'd personally ban it. The reason for that is it like enables some cool combos. Almost all the Double Dragon energy decks, in my opinion, are kind of cool. Regidrago is kind of cool. It's kind of annoying to play against. I mentioned there's a lot of stuff that's annoying to play against, but you look at this deck and you look at what's not fun to play against, and you look at Path to the Peak, and Badoo and Wobbuffet. None of those are going to be talked about today, really, but they're all annoying. The one ability locks, the one, this one also, so two of them ability lock, and one item locks, and they're not so fun. Ultimately, I think their balance is okay, and they slow the format down some, and without them, there might be some issues. I personally like really fast, explosive I like expand to be really fast and explosive, because it's not the main format you'll be playing unless you really want that style of play, because you have standard for just what are like normal games. Ultimately, though, it's not what everyone's looking for. People are sometimes looking for the more control-based strategies. And Badoo and Wobbuffet and Path to Peak are more like attack cards, and you can work around them as well. I will mention there's a card that I'm not going to talk about today that I don't think will be banned, but it is notably Hanshiko GX or Duskstone, I think, is the item that works with. I'd actually ban Duskstone and unban Mismagius, which isn't really changing the format too much, but notably getting Hanshiko GX out of the format, which isn't very fun. It's not actually super good, but it's supposed to just really not fun. Regardless, that's another type of hard lock, and we're going to be talking a little bit about some control things, but ultimately, cards like Badoo, I think, are okay and expanded. There is also some form of counterplay that does exist, so that is kind of cool. Unlike in standard, there isn't really counterplay. There are ways to un-item lock yourself, though they're not very easy to do. Specifically under item lock, they're pretty hard to do. But regardless, Badoo is, I think it's all right. I kind of wanted to pop it in this video because Badoo is annoying. But yeah, you got things like that, and then of course you have the Regidrago pieces, which are Regidrago and it's attacking Pokemon you're copying. Dragapult obviously is very good. I'm sure everyone knows how good that card is. You got a bunch of other lock cards in there as well. You got the Noivern, you got Dialga, which isn't. Well, I guess it's almost like turn lock for a turn, which is kind of absurd. And then you got Kyurem, which is a really strong spread option, and I guess Salamence is okay. Salamence is like a pretty solid card, but it's not some insane card in the deck. Ultimately, though. Well, actually, Salamence, it does 300. That's like quite a lot of damage. Saying that's not insane. It just kind of shows how good everything else is in the deck. Regardless, yeah, you got those pieces in the Double Dragon energy. And I guess like Crispin and Raihan, which are like just how you get powered up. But then you have the other expanded stuff like Jidai and Crobat Tapu Lele, and like Guzma and like Versus Seeker and stuff. And ultimately, these cards are a big part of the deck. The kind of just crazy expanded package, which is the expanded format. And I'll talk about I think one card in that package that could get banned. Suppose it's Battle Compressor. People have been talking about that card for being banned for a while, and I think it could happen. But regardless. Double Dragon Energy is like a big part of Regidrago, but then you do have other decks, and these other decks have, of course, they have different things going on in them. I think I've kind of lost my train of thought. But, you do have that, like, expanded package, and I don't think the expanded package itself, that is, in really every deck is going to be threatened here. And then, I was talking about how they are fun. Yeah, like some of the Pokemon are pretty fun to attack with. Regidrago has a toolbox of decks, which is kind of cool. I said some are kind of annoying. And then you also have... within the other Double Dragon Energy decks, you have Ultra Crozone, which I think is kind of cool. Honestly, ADP I think is kind of cool and expanded with counterplay. I think it's like fair. Wait, this isn't. Oh no, this is. Yeah, this has to be expanded. And then you have Guillotine and Garchomp. I think it's kind of cool. There are some like broken combos with Double Dragon Energy. Actually, no, the broken combo that I was thinking of, there's some broken combos with Guillotine and Garchomp, but they don't use Double Dragon Energy. Regardless, Double Dragon Energy has some cool things going on with it. Looking older, you have some fun things. These are like some standard things, but they're kind of cool. A lot of the partners are annoying though, so I will say that. So I think you could argue whether or not the Double Dragon Energy decks are fun, but you could not argue whether or not the Double Dragon Energy decks are balanced because they're definitely too powerful. This card is just like blatantly overpowered when you look at the metagame. It's almost the entire top of the metagame. The two top decks are Regidrago, and then I think the second deck is Lugia. It's like not as close to Regidrago as Lugia is to the third place deck, but it is like still like played a bunch. And yeah, Double Dragon Energy is the heart of both those decks. You could still theoretically play those decks though without it, and also Lugia probably gets more interesting without Double Dragon Energy. Regardless, this card is like super broken. That's long story short. This card's broken. But I don't think there's too much to say that has to be said about this. Though there was a lot that could be said about it, so I said a lot about it. Regardless, this card probably getting banned. If anything gets banned, I'd be surprised if it's not this card. But moving on to the next card, I'll talk about the other energy, which is double colorless energy. Double colorless energy is not being reprinted. That's like definitely something that I imagine has to be true because we've seen stuff like Twin Energy and Double Turbo Energy, which are kind of they're pretty strong. Twin Energy is like okay. The Pokemon it works with aren't great, but it's a strong card. And then Double Turbo Energy was very strong. And Pokemon doesn't like this card, I think, because they keep printing cards that are worse than it. Um, it's played a bunch, and it's like kind of the baby brother to Double Dragon Energy and expanded right now, where it's played in some very strong decks. It's pretty important to Lugia. It's played in all the decks that aren't Regidraco, really, and it's very good. Ultimately, I think Double Turbo makes them a lot more balanced, and also you have access to more copies of the card. If you right now you could play 4 Double Turbo, 4 Double Colorless if you wanted in something like Lugia, if you really wanted to for whatever reason. And so, ultimately that's something that is kind of strong. You do have special charge to recover them. I think it's still fair and fine for those decks. If this card gets banned, I think it is very strong. I will also mention Floatstone's another card where Pokemon isn't going to reprint it. They've clearly shown that they want to make weaker cards. I don't think Floatstone will get banned. I think its impact on the game, it's okay. I think Double Colors is a little more sketchy, and it could get banned. I think this is the least likely to get banned of these cards. But I think it is possible. It's pretty strong, and it can be kind of annoying as well. A lot of things it's paired with more so tend to be control decks in my experience. I mean, have UV Max. UV Max is a deck that is not a control deck. I think UV Max and Expand is actually really cool. Nothing like super crazy going on here. We like something like Size Bateau DX or like some of the Vileplume stuff. Ultimately, I think it's okay. It's like paired with Slacking as well, which is Slacking X is not a control card, but the deck is a control deck. And ultimately, I think this card just could get banned. It is very strong. Again, not as much to say about this one as some of the other ones, but it is still a very strong card. Then moving to the third card here, we have a true control card, which is Bunnelby. Bunnelby is very strong. Well, I guess I'll mention, now I've showed all the cards, Vileplume as well is the final card here. Well, we have the one's Valak Compressor, which I mentioned earlier, which we'll talk about at the end. But Bunnelby can attack twice, and it has 2 attacks here. The one mills one, which is like the thing that's fine. But then Rototiller, you recover a card, so you discard into your deck, it gets shuffled. And it's supposed to enter your hand or somewhere you can find it. But it's like kind of similar to the Oranguru, which got banned, and the Sableye, which also got banned. And Bunnelby, in my opinion, is like pretty comparable in power level to those cards and pretty similar in what it does. So I don't know why it's not banned. I don't think this card necessarily deserves to be banned. I mean, it's pretty strong. There is the Slacking Vileplume deck or the Vileplume box deck or whatever with Pidgeot. This deck, the main thing you're going to be doing with this deck well, there's a lot of things you're doing with this deck, I guess, and a lot of things your opponent isn't doing with this deck because of what it does. But you have TM Evolution, which allows you to get Vileplume up turn 2 going second, or no, sorry, turn 1 going second by double TM Evolutioning. And this is actually kind of broken because, obviously it's broken, right? Item locking your opponent turn 1, not through Badoo, is absurd. There is no stopping it for the rest of the game. You're just item locked for the entire game. Turn 1, and your opponent's still able to attack. It's not like they're just doing 10 every turn. No, they're doing turn 2, they're gonna be swinging with 280 or something. So ultimately, this is really brutal, and then it's like Forest of Giant Plants. Forest of Giant Plants is a ban card, the most obvious ban card in Expanded, or one of the most obvious ban cards in Expanded, and it's a card that ultimately is kind of banned for other reasons. It's banned for specifically there's a Shiftry combo that was broken, which I think Shiftry was banned. Comment down below, was Shiftry banned? I couldn't actually find that out online. I heard conflicting things, which I don't know how I found that. I think it was banned and then unbanned, but I'm not actually sure on that one. Regardless, there was a broken Shiftry combo that allowed you to win turn 1. But regardless, this card with Vileplume, turn 1 going first, you could item lock, which is insane. This doesn't do that, but it can do turn 1 going second, which is still pretty insane. And yeah, most likely want to go second anyway. So this is it's really good, right? Regardless, I guess there are technically ways to get around this, like Wobbuffet would allow you to get around this, but that's still kind of awkward. Again, to get Wobbuffet in the active when you're item locked. Regardless, and that is really strong, but that's Vileplume, which we'll talk about in a second. But the reason for banning Bunnelby is because it recovers cards from there. It just like recovers all your cards, which is super good. And it's only one color essentially. It's so easy to do. Sableye is banned, recovers 2 items from your discard to your hand. Yes, it gets them to your hand. That is noticeably better, but you have really solid search with the Pidgeot engine, which I guess actually came into the game, I believe, since Sableye got banned. I don't remember when it got banned because I don't pay that much attention to Expanded to the point where I remember when the things happened. I'm not going to lie. But regardless, it's pretty similar there. And then Orangu is 3 cards. So that is better. I think Orangu is probably stronger than both of them. But I think Bunnelby is not. I think it could be stronger than Sableye. I mean, it doesn't get them to your hand, but it can get any type of card. And also, Sableye gets items. Like, you can't do Sableye in a deck like this because you just can't play the card. So, ultimately, Bunnelby is just kind of absurd. It allows you to do so many crazy things. I actually like this card. I think the attacking twice. I think this is by far the best card to use ancient traits in the Pokemon TCG. I kind of bash on ancient traits all the time, or not all the time because they're not in standard. But whenever I talk about them, I usually say bad things about them, which I stand by. But the Bunnelby is by far the coolest use of them, in my opinion. It's again kind of a problem card, but I think the way it uses ancient traits is really fun, specifically for like alternate formats. It's super cool. But in expanded, it's kind of crazy. And I think it should be banned. I think like it doesn't make sense that those other cards are banned and this one isn't. I feel like it slots perfectly within the cards that should be banned list, right? It's very strong and it's not so fun to play against. This is like kind of the level of somewhat interesting control. You have some mill, but it's like not crazy, and you have like recovery, but it's not like absolutely absurd recovery. It's quite strong recovery. But you need to kind of be a little careful with what you're doing. Yeah, I think it's within the realm of kind of okay, maybe, but very much pushing it. And I think based on the other bans I've seen, it does deserve to be banned. But moving over to Vileplume complete item lock just is not fun. This card's very strong as well and expanded. It's not broken. I will say the previous year expanded tournament, this one Vileplume Bunnelby did win. Vileplume Bunnelby is now not as strong. Vileplume Bunnelby is pretty good though. There's also some more variations of the deck. One of the builds actually plays Dragapult EX, which is like kind of absurd, and I think it plays double Dragon Energy and just like attack with Dragapult while your opponent's like item locked and like doesn't have any energy and stuff. Also like Bunnelby, the stuff it's doing, because I mentioned Vileplume as like the main thing you're setting up, but you have like lots of disruption. Like you've got like lots of energy. You have like Faba here to remove energy, and you have you can like disrupt your opponent in various different ways. And then this one you are trying to attack with Slacking EX. You're not going for as crazy disruption as you could do with something like this list has Plumeria, Team Skull Grunt, and Team Flare Gear, which are all kind of similar there, and 2 copies of Faba. So this one has more disruption. People are more leaning towards a little less disruption, I think, and more like an actual attacker. So the game like ends faster. You kind of apply pressure to end the game as opposed to just slowing down your opponent to end the game. We see something like this other Vileplume as well, which is another defensive card as opposed to a card like again something like Dragapult EX or Slacking EX, or I think there's another one that's pretty commonly played, which I don't remember. I'm not gonna lie, but ultimately Bunnelby is a big part of this deck, and Vileplume's the other big part of this deck. And the Vileplume stops both players from playing items, so your deck's like super boring. You got 4 Tag Call to get your 4 Guzman Hala, and then you have your 3 Buddy Bait Poffin. And that's it. That's all your items, and you use those to just set up. I will say, you could argue this card got, I don't know, it's different now with the tools being not items anymore, which is kind of interesting. Ultimately, it changes things some. It doesn't change things like completely, but changes things some, kind of in an interesting way, allowing you to use more tools, your opponent to also obviously use more tools, which I think is better for the game because it's actually doing less. I think this card just is so annoying all the time, and really just stops so many things, and really stops like the more explosive combos. I know some people think the explosive combos are bad, and everyone likes the game differently. I like the explosive combos a little more. I do think some control cards are cool though, but ultimately this Vileplume card, it's just it really stops the game and really slows it down in a way that is like not fun. It's like Badoo on steroids, which is like not what you want, right? That's like the last thing anyone wants. And there's not really great counterplay to it. Again, there is some counterplay, but it's kind of bad. Um, ultimately, I think it's a card that I don't know if it'll be banned, but I want it to be banned. I'm just gonna say that this is the card that I by far most want to get banned, because it just slows things down in an unfun way. And it's very strong, right? Ultimately, I'm saying it's like not fun, but it's not fun for everyone. It's not just me, because again, you look at Reggie Draco, the top deck, and Reggie Draco. I place a bunch of items. You have like your quick balls and your mysterious treasures and your versus seekers and your battle compressors and stuff. And so one, you're set up, you just attack and it doesn't matter. And then that's boring. Or two, you're not set up and you don't attack and it's really boring. Ultimately, it makes every game that's in really boring, because you're not going to be making interesting plays from there on. And so then your opponent, just kind of like doing your thing and you're going through the motions to do what you can, and you do what you can, and that's it. There's not really too much thought going on, unfortunately, because you're just being able to access less of your deck throughout the game. And this card has been like super good and expanded for a really long time as well, and in stand as well. I just like don't really. I wish it wasn't printed in the first place. You look at something like Decidueye Vileplume. Decidueye, really cool card in my opinion. Vileplume, less cool card. I can see why it's fun to play, but ultimately it's a card that just is not great for the game, and ultimately goes in decks that also aren't so fun. Like if you're up against Vileplume, you can't really do anything, and then the Vileplume deck can usually get like you see Pidgeot and Pidgeotto, Pidgeot EX and Pidgeotto, so they can just get whatever they want, and then they can get rid of all your energy, and then yeah, that's about it, right? You're going to lose all your energy, and then you're going to lose, and that's about it. Ultimately, again, there's not super interesting dynamics there, and again, you can still attack as well. So it's like Badoo. I think Badoo's way more fair than Vileplume. Badoo, one of the best cards in Standard right now, one of the best Pokemon. This is substantially better than it, specifically within the format with the cards around it. I think Vileplume or Bunnelby. I don't think both will get banned. I'd personally vote for Vileplume. I think Bunnelby is more likely to get banned, though. I will say that. The last card, though, is Battle Compressor. Battle Compressor is a card that has been talked about being ban worthy for quite a while. What it does is an item. You search your deck for 3 cards and discard them from your deck, and you shuffle your deck. Ultimately, this card is it's something that is really interesting because it's a team player gear, as in it's a card that does something quote bad, except it's obviously not bad because it has synergies which are really strong, and it's in Regidrago to get your Pokemon in the discard to attack. It has synergies with really strong cards, like Versus Seeker and of the recovery from the discard cards. Let's see, are they actually in this deck? I want to find. Oh, that's a different list, but it's fine. Yeah, like Night Stretcher or Rescue Stretcher or something. You do have synergies with that as well to turn those into search cards. Ultimately, this is a card again that is very strong. I'd say it has been stronger in the past with something like United Wings in Standard, right? That would be absurd with Battle Compressor, borderline broken, and I don't think people would complain about that too much. And also, there's this kind of player. I will mention that. But it allows them just like kind of crazy things, in ways that are kind of I don't know. It's just kind of too powerful. And it's not too powerful in the way that quick ball is too powerful, where it's like a something that like is just a stable feature in the game for setting up. I mean, it kind of is for setting up, but it's really the only card like it, and in a way that a lot of people don't like. And again, you're setting up things that are just kind of crazy. Like you look at Trevenant Duststorm, this deck got banned a bunch of pieces in it. And I would argue actually Gengar Mimikyu or Trevenant Duststorm could get banned. Probably not. But there's a time at which they could have. And then you're going to be using Battle Compressor to just kind of get you set up in a way that's like super consistent. And also, it's just a really powerful card for thinning your deck, obviously, as well. So ultimately, it's going to get you what you need, get you to the position where you need to be, which I do like, but ultimately, it's just kind of crazy. Getting any 3 cards from your deck, again, not necessarily into your hand, but they kind of can be into your hand. They can be where they need to be. It's something that is super versatile, super powerful. Has like just kind of absurd synergy with the expanded card pool. And you look at like if it was in standard, it would just be like kind of whatever. When it has been in standard, it's kind of been whatever. I guess when it wasn't standard was probably when it was. I was gonna say the strongest, but like in standard. But that's like kind of stupid. Like yeah. But it's a card that's been, I guess that would have been, if it wasn't standard throughout its whole time, like all the standards since the modern era, that it would probably be strongest when it was actually printed, where you had stuff like Night March and you had Versus Seeker. But ultimately, it's like was still way stronger and expanded. It just has so many combos and synergies. You look at the top decks like Lugia, where you need your Orcaps in the discard, and versus Draco, where you need your Pokemon in the discard, and then of course, it has lots of synergies with recovery cards. I will say this one I think has been a little stronger in the past. I don't expect it to be banned right away, but it's just really strong. But overall, tell me down below what you think of this video. Honestly, I'm recording this one kind of late for me, but also I just woke up from a nap, so I'm in a weird mood, and so it's kind of rambly. But I hope you enjoyed. I know people like expanding content. I wanted to make an expanded video for everyone, but I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, comment down below your thoughts, and as always, like I said, see you in the next video.